The 1960s were an era of innovation in the car industry, with manufacturers experimenting with bold designs, new technologies, and futuristic concepts. However, not all experiments were successful. Some cars were simply ahead of their time, poorly designed, or just plain silly. Let's dive into the 13 worst and silliest cars from the 1960s, from around the world that missed the mark. The Bond minicar, produced from 1949 to 1966, was an intriguing and quirky vehicle that has earned a notable place in automotive history for its unique design and incredibly minimalistic approach to motoring. Designed by Lawrence Laurie Bond. The minicar was created with one goal in mind: to provide an ultra-economical mode of transportation for post-war Britain, where fuel rationing and financial hardship left many people unable to afford traditional cars. The Bond minicar was one of the earliest microcars, a class of vehicles designed to be smaller, lighter, and significantly cheaper than typical family cars. Its design and engineering reflected a bare-bones, budget-conscious philosophy, and in many ways the minicar was more of a glorified motorcycle with a body than an actual car. One of the most defining features of the Bond minicar was its three-wheeled layout, which immediately set it apart from other cars on the road. With two wheels at the rear and a single narrow wheel at the front, the minicar had a tricycle-like appearance that made it look more like a toy or a homemade kit car than a conventional automobile. This unconventional design was both an attempt to save on production costs and a way to classify the minicar as a motorcycle, allowing it to circumvent certain taxes and regulations that applied to four-wheeled vehicles in the UK at the time. The minicar's single-cylinder engine was mounted at the front, powering the single front wheel. Early versions of the car were equipped with a 122 cubic centimeter Villiers engine, which was later upgraded to slightly more powerful versions. But even in its best iteration, the engine produced less than 10 horsepower. This resulted in truly underwhelming performance, with top speeds barely reaching 50 miles per hour. The acceleration was sluggish, to say the least, and driving uphill could be a challenging experience. The car's engine was famously noisy and prone to vibrations, adding to the feeling that you were driving a machine designed for minimalism rather than comfort. The minicar's narrow and lightweight frame contributed to its fuel efficiency, but also raised serious concerns about its stability. The vehicle's small size and three-wheeled layout made it prone to tipping over during sharp turns or sudden maneuvers, and its handling left much to be desired. The front-wheel drive configuration, paired with the underpowered engine and rudimentary suspension, made for a rough and sometimes unpredictable driving experience. On top of that, the front wheel did all the steering, accelerating, and braking, which placed an enormous strain on that one point of contact with the road. In terms of appearance, the Bond minicar had a quaint, almost cartoonish look. Its small, rounded body, with simple lines and minimal detailing, gave it a slightly awkward charm, but it lacked the sleekness or style of larger, more expensive cars. It was clear that the design prioritized function over form. The tiny cabin had room for just 2 passengers, and while some versions came with a small cargo area or even a convertible soft-top roof, the minicar was about as basic as a vehicle could get. The interior was Spartan, with a rudimentary dashboard, a simple bench seat, and very little in the way of creature comforts. Drivers were lucky to get a speedometer, let alone any modern conveniences. Yet despite its limitations, the Bond minicar found a loyal customer base among those who were in desperate need of affordable transportation. For many working-class families, the minicar was a way to escape the constraints of public transport without breaking the bank. It was also popular among older drivers and those with mobility issues, as its lightweight and small size made it easy to maneuver and park in crowded urban environments. For these reasons, the minicar enjoyed moderate success, particularly in the early post-war years, when larger, more expensive cars were out of reach for most Britons. However, as the British economy improved in the 1950s and 1960s, the Bond minicar's popularity began to wane. By the mid-1960s, better designed and more affordable small cars like the Maribyrnau Mini and the Fiat 500 were available, offering significantly more comfort, power, and safety at only a slightly higher price. These cars had 4 wheels, proper suspension, and engines that could deliver reasonable performance without the constant fear of tipping over. The Mini car's novelty was no longer enough to keep it competitive in an evolving automotive market. The Saab 92, produced between 1949 and 1956, holds a unique place in automotive history as Saab's first production car. While its futuristic, aerodynamic design broke new ground in car manufacturing, the 92 was not without its share of flaws, particularly in terms of power, comfort, and refinement. Although it laid the groundwork for Saab's future success, the car's shortcomings made it a mixed bag for early buyers. Born out of a company best known for making military aircraft, the Saab 92's design reflects its aviation heritage. Saab engineers, many of whom were aircraft designers, prioritized aerodynamics over traditional car aesthetics. The 92's body was shaped like a teardrop with a streamlined silhouette and smooth curves that set it apart from the boxier cars of the time. The car's drag coefficient of 0.30 was remarkable for the era, making it one of the most aerodynamically efficient vehicles of its time. This sleek design was innovative and forward-thinking, but it also gave the car a somewhat odd, unconventional appearance. Its smooth, egg-like shape made it stand out on the road, but not always in a flattering way. Some found it elegant, while others thought it looked peculiar and awkward. One of the most noticeable drawbacks of the Saab 92 was its underpowered 2-stroke engine. The car was equipped with a 764 cubic centimeter 2-cylinder engine that produced just 25 horsepower, which was hardly enough for anything more than leisurely driving. The engine's output, combined with the car's lightweight, allowed it to reach a modest top speed of about 65 miles per hour, 105 kilometers per hour. But acceleration was sluggish, especially by today's standards. The 2-stroke engine design, common in smaller European cars at the time, required a mixture of oil and gasoline, which resulted in the engine emitting a distinctive, smoky exhaust. This, along with the noisy operation of the engine, made driving the Saab 92 a less than refined experience, especially during longer trips. The green interior of the Saab 92 was similarly basic, offering minimal creature comforts. As an affordable and practical car, luxury was not a priority for Saab's design team. The dashboard and instrumentation were simple, with only the most essential controls and dials in place. There were no radios, air conditioning, or even much in the way of soundproofing, so the car's noisy engine was always present inside the cabin. The seating was functional but not particularly comfortable, and the car lacked the spaciousness or thoughtful ergonomics of higher-end vehicles. While it was functional and durable, the interior felt stripped down and utilitarian, which didn't do much to improve the car's overall appeal. Despite these drawbacks, the concern Saab 92 did have some redeeming qualities. Its Haranar front-wheel drive layout was a notable feature in a time when most cars had rear-wheel drive. This gave the 92 excellent traction, especially in the snowy and icy conditions of Sweden, Saab's home country. The car quickly gained a reputation for being reliable in winter weather, a characteristic that would become a hallmark of Saab vehicles in the decades to come. Additionally, the car's monocoque construction, a single-piece body design, contributed to its structural rigidity and safety, which was another pioneering aspect for the time. While the Saab 92 was not without its quirks, it also laid the foundation for the company's future innovations. Saab's engineers were committed to improving the car's performance and comfort over time. Later models like the Saab 93 and Saab 96 would build upon the 92's strengths while addressing many of its weaknesses. The 92's legacy is also closely tied to its role in Saab's motorsport history. The car, though not particularly fast, proved remarkably durable and successful in rally racing, further solidifying its reputation as a dependable vehicle in tough conditions. In terms of design, the 92's appearance was polarizing. Some appreciated its forward-thinking, aerodynamic shape, while others found it unusual, particularly in comparison to the more conventional designs of the time. Its rounded body and lack of ornamentation made it look more like a utilitarian tool than a stylish car. It had a distinct, almost futuristic charm that hinted at the forward-looking philosophy of Saab. But for many drivers, the car's unusual design and underwhelming power were significant detractors. Though the Funiader's Saab 92 was far from perfect, it represented a bold step into the automotive world for a company better known for airplanes. The car's aerodynamic design and focus on practicality over luxury or style were daring moves that reflected Saab's unique approach to engineering. While the 92 was underpowered and lacked the refinement of its competitors, it nonetheless paved the way for Saab's future innovations, including a focus on safety, durability, and performance in adverse conditions. The Zastava 750 is one of those vehicles that has etched itself into the collective memory of a generation, not because it was particularly remarkable in terms of performance, design, or innovation, but because it symbolized an era of resourcefulness and pragmatism in post-war Eastern Europe. Produced from 1955 to 1985, the Zastava 750 was built under license from Fiat, and it was essentially a Yugoslav version of the Fiat 600, a car designed to be affordable, accessible, and easy to maintain. In this context, the Zastava 750 served as a critical stepping stone for millions of Eastern European families looking to own their first car, offering an opportunity for personal mobility and freedom at a time when choices were limited by economic and political constraints. The Zastava 750 was, first and foremost, a car of modest proportions and even more modest capabilities. Its compact body measured just under 3 meters in length, making it ideal for navigating the narrow streets of European cities. But this small size also meant that the interior space was cramped. The car's rounded, almost bubble-like silhouette had an unassuming, utilitarian charm that was far from stylish but perfectly suited to the vehicle's purpose. In a world that was increasingly drawn to the bold, aggressive lines of American and Western European cars in the 1960s and 1970s, the Zastava 750's soft, rounded contours seemed almost quaint and old-fashioned. The car's exterior was simple and without much flair. There was no chrome, no sweeping lines, no aesthetic touches to make it stand out. It was a car built to be driven, not admired. The interior of the Zastava 750 reflected the same no-nonsense philosophy. The dashboard was Spartan, with only the most essential gauges and controls, and the seats were small and minimally padded. The car could technically seat 4 people, but in practice it was better suited to 2 adults and perhaps 2 children, given the lack of legroom and the narrowness of the cabin. The rear bench was particularly tight, and longer journeys were often uncomfortable, especially when the car was fully loaded with passengers. Luggage space was similarly limited, with only a small trunk located at the front of the car, making the Zastava 750 less than ideal for family vacations or extended road trips. The engine, a small 767 cubic centimeter 4-cylinder, was located at the rear of the vehicle. It produced a mere 25 horsepower, which was barely enough to propel the car to highway speeds. In fact, reaching its top speed of around 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour, often required a long stretch of road, and the engine's lack of power became especially apparent on inclines or when the car was fully loaded. The Zastava 750's rear engine layout also contributed to a driving experience that was, at best, quirky. The car had a tendency to understeer, particularly on wet or slippery roads, and its narrow, lightweight body made it feel unstable at higher speeds. Handling was imprecise, with vague steering and a suspension system that, while soft enough to absorb bumps on city streets, made the car feel floaty and disconnected from the road at speed. One of the most significant drawbacks of the Zastava 750 was its notorious reliability issues. While the car was relatively simple to work on, it was prone to a wide range of mechanical problems. Overheating was a frequent issue, particularly in warmer climates or during long journeys, as the rear-mounted engine struggled with inadequate cooling. The electrical system was another common source of trouble, with faulty wiring leading to problems with the headlights, indicators, and starter motor. Rust was a persistent problem as well, with the car's bodywork often succumbing to corrosion after just a few years on the road, particularly in regions with harsh winters and salted roads. Many owners found themselves spending as much time fixing their Zastava 750s as they did driving them, and the availability of spare parts became increasingly difficult as the car aged, adding to the frustrations of ownership. Despite these challenges, the Zastava 750 was incredibly popular in Yugoslavia and other Eastern European countries. This was largely due to its affordability. It was one of the cheapest cars on the market, making it accessible to working-class families who otherwise might not have been able to afford a vehicle. For many, the Zastava 750 represented a chance at personal freedom, a way to travel beyond their immediate surroundings and experience the wider world, even if that experience was often marred by breakdowns and repairs. The car's simple design also made it relatively easy to fix, and many owners became adept at performing basic maintenance and repairs themselves, a skill that was practically a necessity given the car's tendency to develop mechanical issues. The Goliath 1010, 1957 to 1961, was a compact car produced by the Borgward Group, a German automaker that specialized in budget-friendly vehicles aimed at the post-war European market. While the Borgward name was associated with mid-range quality cars, the Goliath 1010 was a simpler, more economical model intended to appeal to buyers looking for basic transportation at an affordable price. Despite its affordability, the Goliath 1100 struggled to make a lasting impression due to its lackluster performance, uninspired design, and mechanical limitations. One of the defining features of the Goliath 1100 was its flat-4 engine, a type of engine that was unusual for its time. While flat engines, also known as boxer engines, were used in cars like the Volkswagen Beetle and Porsche 356, the version found in the Goliath 1100 was far less powerful. It had a displacement of 1,093 cubic centimeters, which produced around 40 horsepower. This level of power was adequate for city driving, but left much to be desired on highways or in hilly terrain. The car's top speed was modest, typically hovering around 120 kilometers per hour, 75 miles per hour, and it often struggled to accelerate quickly, especially when carrying passengers or luggage. For many buyers, this limited the car's practicality for long-distance or high-speed travel, particularly in comparison to its more powerful competitors. In terms of handling, the Goliath 1100 was similarly unimpressive. The car was equipped with a basic suspension system that, while functional, offered a rather bumpy ride on rough roads. The steering was vague, and the car tended to understeer in corners, making it difficult to drive with confidence at higher speeds. The Rot drum brakes it used were also prone to fading after prolonged use, which raised concerns about safety, particularly on long downhill stretches or in stop-and-go traffic. For those who prioritize reliability and ease of driving, the Goliath 1100 did not provide the reassurance or comfort that was found in other cars of the era. The car design of the Goliath 1100 was simple and unremarkable. Its styling was boxy, with a tall, upright profile that maximized interior space, but gave the car a somewhat stodgy appearance. The front featured a narrow grille flanked by round headlights, while the body had few decorative elements or chrome accents. This minimalist design was characteristic of many post-war European economy cars, which focused more on function than form. However, compared to the sleek and curvaceous designs coming out of Italy or the United States during the late 1950s, the Goliath 1010 looked rather dated and utilitarian. This plain aesthetic didn't help the car stand out in an increasingly competitive market where buyers were beginning to expect more flair, even in budget models. One of the car's main selling points was its affordability. The Goliath 1100 was priced to appeal to the lower middle class and first-time car buyers, offering an inexpensive way to get on the road without breaking the bank. It was marketed as a practical, no-frills vehicle that could meet the basic transportation needs of families or individuals who didn't require high performance or luxury features. However, its low price also came with trade-offs in terms of quality and durability. The materials used in its construction were not as robust as those found in more expensive models, and the car was known for developing mechanical problems over time, particularly in the engine and transmission. The Goliath 1100 was produced during a time when Germany's economy was recovering from the devastation of World War II, and many people were looking for reliable, affordable cars. Unfortunately for Goliath, the 1100 faced stiff competition from better established brands like Volkswagen, which offered the highly popular Beetle, and other European automakers that were beginning to produce more refined and stylish vehicles in the compact segment. As a result, the Goliath 1100 struggled to carve out a niche in the marketplace, and its sales never reached the levels that Borgward had hoped for. By the early 1960s, the Borgward Group was facing financial difficulties, and the Goliath brand was discontinued shortly after the Goliath 1100 ceased production in 1961. The car's legacy is one of a well-intentioned but ultimately underwhelming effort to provide budget-conscious buyers with an affordable alternative to more established brands. While it was never a commercial success, the Goliath 1100 remains a quirky footnote in the history of post-war European automotive design, remembered for its unusual engine configuration, its basic styling, and its failure to compete in an increasingly demanding market. The Citroën Ami 6, 1961 to 1969, was a compact car designed to sit between the more Spartan 2CV and the larger, more sophisticated DS, but its odd, polarizing design and sluggish performance made it one of the more peculiar cars to come out of Citroën's lineup. While it featured some innovative engineering and quirky French charm, it was widely criticized for its awkward, unconventional styling, which many found unattractive or even downright strange. One of the most notable features of the Ami 6 was its reverse-sloped rear window, a design decision that immediately set it apart from other cars of its time. The rear window was tilted inward toward the front of the car, creating a peculiar profile that some compared to the back of a coat. This design wasn't purely aesthetic, however. It was chosen to increase the size of the trunk while maintaining visibility through the rear window when it rained. This was meant to solve a practical problem, but it gave the car a slightly disjointed appearance, with the rear looking almost as if it had been put on backward. The rest of the body design also seemed to clash with itself, with its narrow headlights, long flat hood, and high angular roofline creating a mishmash of proportions that didn't quite fit together harmoniously. The Ami 6's chafak performance was another area where it left much to be desired. It was powered by a small 602 cubic centimeter flat twin engine, which produced just 24 horsepower, making it slow by almost any standard. The car had a top speed of around 105 kilometers per hour, 65 miles per hour, which was adequate for city driving, but made long-distance or highway travel a sluggish experience. Acceleration was similarly underwhelming, with the Ami 6 taking its time to reach even modest speeds. Citroën prioritized comfort and economy over speed, but the underpowered engine, coupled with its quirky design, made the car feel out of place in an era when more streamlined and powerful vehicles were becoming the norm. Despite its awkward appearance and lackluster engine, the Ami 6 did have some redeeming qualities. Citroën was known for its innovative suspension systems, and the Ami 6 featured a soft, comfortable ride, thanks to its independent suspension. This made it well suited for the rougher roads of rural France, where many of its buyers lived. The car's handling, while far from sporty, was light and easy, making it manageable even for inexperienced drivers. Additionally, the car's boxy shape resulted in a surprisingly spacious interior for its size, with ample headroom and a comfortable seating position, especially in the front. Another strength of the Ami 6 was its affordability. Positioned as a step up from the 2CV but still much cheaper than the luxurious DS, the Ami 6 was intended to be an affordable family car for the working class. It offered more space and refinement than the bare-bones 2CV, and its low running costs, thanks to its fuel efficiency and simple mechanics, made it appealing to buyers who needed a reliable, economical vehicle. In rural areas where people valued practicality over style, the Ami 6 found its niche despite its unconventional looks. Over time, the Ami 6 gained a certain cult status, especially among fans of Citroën's quirky designs. While it was never considered beautiful or fast, it embodied the brand's philosophy of daring to be different and focusing on engineering solutions that prioritize practicality. The car's unusual aesthetics have, in some circles, become part of its charm, appreciated by those who value its eccentricity and disregard for traditional automotive design norms. In 1969, Citroën replaced the Ami 6 with the Ami 8, which had a more conventional design but retained much of the same mechanical underpinnings. The reverse-sloped rear window was abandoned in favor of a more traditional fastback style, reflecting the desire to move away from the criticisms the Ami 6 had received regarding its appearance. The Ami 6 remains a distinctive, if not universally loved, part of Citroën's history, remembered for its bold and unusual approach to what a small car could be. Its combination of quirky design, practicality, and affordability ensured its place as an enduring oddball in the world of French automobiles. The Willys Aero, 1952 to 1955, was a modest attempt by Willys Overland to diversify its post-war product line beyond the rugged Jeeps or Richem. The company was known for venturing into the competitive world of affordable family cars. While the Willys Aero aimed to offer practicality and affordability, it struggled to make a lasting impression due to its unremarkable styling, underpowered engine options, and lack of distinguishing features, making it one of the more forgettable American cars of the early 1950s. Willys Overland, a company largely associated with military and utility vehicles, sought to reposition itself in the early 1950s as a producer of passenger cars. The Aero was introduced in 1952 as a compact, economical vehicle designed to appeal to middle-class families who were looking for a practical, low-cost car. The company's aim was to compete with the one-on Big Three. American automakers, Ford, GM and Chrysler, in the booming post-war car market. However, the Willys Aero's conservative design and limited performance hindered its ability to stand out in such a crowded field. The restyling wash of the Willys Aero was plain and unexciting, even by the standards of the early 1950s. Its overall design was conventional, featuring simple lines, modest proportions, and very little ornamentation. While some might have appreciated its clean, no-nonsense appearance, it lacked the flair and chrome-laden exuberance that characterized many other cars of the era. The Aero's minimalist design didn't offend, but it certainly didn't inspire. Competing vehicles from Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler featured more dramatic styling, with swooping fenders, bold grills, and eye-catching two-tone paint schemes that drew buyers' attention in showrooms. By contrast, the Aero's bland aesthetics made it easy to overlook. Under the hood, the Willys Aero was powered by a series of engines that were similarly uninspiring. The base models came equipped with a 134 cubic inch 2.2-liter inline-4 engine, which produced 75 horsepower. While this engine was adequate for basic commuting and city driving, it struggled on the highway, especially when compared to the more powerful V8 engines that were becoming increasingly common in American cars at the time. Later versions of the Aero offered a 161 cubic inch 2.6-liter inline 6.1 engine, which boosted power output to around 90 to 115 horsepower, depending on the configuration. Even with the 6-cylinder option, the Aero was still considered underpowered, especially when compared to larger, more robust family sedans from competing automakers. The modern interior of the Willys Aero, like its exterior, was simple and functional, but lacked the luxury and comfort that many consumers were beginning to expect from cars in the post-war boom years. The dashboard was basic, with minimal gauges and controls, and the overall interior layout reflected the car's budget-oriented design. Upholstery options were limited, and the materials used in the cabin were serviceable but far from luxurious. While the Aero offered reasonable seating for a small family, it did little to differentiate itself from the competition in terms of comfort or convenience. One of the few positive aspects of the Willys Aero was its fuel efficiency, which was a key selling point in an era when fuel economy was becoming more important to American families as they began to use their cars for longer commutes and vacations. The Aero's lightweight construction and smaller engine helped it achieve better gas mileage than many larger sedans of the time, which appealed to budget-conscious buyers. However, in an age when bigger and more powerful cars were often seen as a symbol of success and status, the Aero's efficiency wasn't enough to compensate for its lack of excitement. Despite its shortcomings, the Willys Aero was marketed aggressively as a practical, affordable option for middle-class families. Willys even positioned the Aero as a smartphone choice, emphasizing its efficiency, ease of maintenance, and overall value for money. Unfortunately, these efforts were not enough to overcome the car's lack of appeal in terms of performance and design. Sales of the Aero were modest at best, and it failed to make a significant dent in the market. By 1955, Willys Overland was struggling financially, and the Aero was discontinued as the company shifted its focus back to the more successful Jeep line. The Aero's failure to gain traction in the highly competitive post-war car market was a sign of the company's larger difficulties in transitioning from military and utility vehicles to consumer passenger cars. Today, the Willys Aero is largely forgotten, overshadowed by the more iconic and successful cars of the 1950s. However, for collectors and enthusiasts, the Aero remains an interesting example of Willys Overland's brief foray into the world of family sedans. The Hillman Imp 1963 to 1976 was a British compact car that aimed to carve out a niche in the competitive small car market of the 1960s, particularly as a rival to the iconic Mini. With a rear-engine layout and a distinctive design, the Imp was initially seen as an innovative offering from Roots Group. However, despite its promising start, the car was plagued by a series of issues that would ultimately tarnish its reputation and limit its success. The Imp was launched during a time when compact cars were becoming increasingly popular in the UK, driven by changing consumer preferences and the need for economical transportation. Its design was distinctive, featuring a compact body with a rounded silhouette and a hatchback configuration that aimed to maximize interior space. The idea was to create a car that was not only practical for urban driving, but also fun to drive, much like the Mini. However, while the Mini's design was embraced by the public, the Hillman Imp's quirky styling did not resonate in the same way, leaving it with a somewhat polarizing aesthetic that struggled to attract buyers. One of the major drawbacks of the Hillman Imp was its reliability. Owners frequently reported problems with overheating, particularly in the early models, which had a tendency to run hot, especially under heavy load or during long journeys. This was largely attributed to the car's air-cooled 1000cc 1.0-liter engine, which was mounted at the rear, a layout that complicated cooling compared to front-engine designs. The overheating issues, coupled with subpar build quality, meant that many Imps spent more time in the shop than on the road, leading to frustration among owners. Additionally, the Imp's performance was hampered by its small engine, which produced only about 40 horsepower. While this was adequate for city driving and short trips, the lack of power became apparent during highway driving or when fully loaded with passengers. Drivers often found the Imp underwhelming in terms of acceleration and overall performance, especially when compared to competitors like the Mini, which offered a more engaging driving experience and greater power. The combination of these factors contributed to a growing dissatisfaction among consumers. The car's interior was designed with a focus on practicality, but it often fell short in terms of comfort and aesthetics. The seating was cramped, especially in the rear, and the overall finish and materials used inside the car lacked the refinement that many buyers were beginning to expect from vehicles in this segment. While the hatchback design allowed for some versatility and cargo space, the cramped quarters and basic amenities did little to enhance the driving experience. Despite these challenges, the Hillman Imp did have its share of loyal fans. It was appreciated for its compact size, making it an ideal choice for navigating tight urban streets and parking in crowded areas. The hatchback design was ahead of its time, and some owners enjoyed the practicality it offered. However, these positives were often overshadowed by the numerous reliability issues and performance limitations. As production continued throughout the 1960s and into the early 1970s, the Hillman Imp underwent various updates and improvements. Nevertheless, the fundamental problems with overheating and build quality remained persistent issues that manufacturers struggled to fully address. The Imp was never able to compete effectively with the Mini or other small cars that offered a more balanced combination of performance, reliability, and design. In 1976, after years of declining sales and a lack of investment in further development, the Hillman Imp was ultimately discontinued. The car's production ended as the Roots Group itself underwent significant changes, eventually being absorbed into the larger Chrysler UK organization. By this point, the Imp had already faded from public consciousness, overshadowed by more successful and reliable models in the compact car segment. Today, the Hillman Imp is often remembered as an interesting piece of automotive history, a symbol of a time when small cars were gaining popularity in the UK. While it may not have achieved the same level of acclaim as its rivals, the Imp remains a nostalgic reminder of an era when British car manufacturers were attempting to innovate and compete in a rapidly changing market. For enthusiasts and collectors, the Imp represents a unique chapter in automotive design, highlighting both the ambitions and challenges faced by manufacturers during a transformative period in the industry. The Panhard Dyna Z, 1954 to 1959, was an ambitious project from the French manufacturer. Panhard, aiming to offer a modern, lightweight vehicle during the post-war automotive boom. With its innovative construction and unique styling, the Dyna Z represented a departure from conventional car design, but it ultimately struggled to find a loyal customer base due to its performance limitations and peculiar aesthetics. One of the standout features of the Dyna Z was its lightweight aluminum body, which was a notable achievement for its time. Panhard was one of the pioneers of using aluminum in mass production, allowing the Dyna Z to weigh significantly less than many of its contemporaries. This lightweight construction contributed to better fuel efficiency, which was increasingly important during the 1950s as consumers began to prioritize economical vehicles. The Dyna Z was heralded as a fuel-efficient option, boasting remarkable mileage for its size, but this advantage came at the cost of power and performance. Under the hood, the Dyna Z was equipped with a small 847 cubic centimeter two-cylinder engine that produced only about 38 horsepower. This modest power output, while adequate for urban commuting, left much to be desired in terms of acceleration and highway performance. Drivers often found themselves frustrated by the car's sluggishness, particularly when attempting to navigate inclines or merge onto faster roadways. The lack of horsepower combined with the lightweight structure made the driving experience feel underwhelming, leading many to consider the Dyna Z more of a chore than a pleasure to drive. The interior of the Panhard Dyna Z reflected its utilitarian nature. While it was designed to be functional and straightforward, the interior lacked comfort and modern amenities that consumers were starting to expect from their vehicles. The seating was basic, with limited adjustments and minimal cushioning, making long journeys uncomfortable. The dashboard was simple and devoid of many of the features seen in competing models, such as more elaborate gauges or luxury touches. Overall, the interior felt more like an afterthought rather than a thoughtfully designed space for drivers and passengers. Aesthetically, the Panhard Dyna Z was characterized by its quirky and somewhat unconventional design. Its distinctive bug-eyed headlights, rounded body, and overall silhouette were unlike most cars on the road at the time. While some enthusiasts appreciated the uniqueness of its design, others found it odd and unappealing. The car's styling did not resonate well with the general public, which further hampered its sales potential. In a market that was becoming increasingly competitive, the Dyna Z's design choices proved to be a double-edged sword. Despite its shortcomings, the Panhard Dyna Z did have a dedicated following among certain groups. Its lightweight nature and efficient engine made it a practical choice for city dwellers who prioritized economy over performance. Additionally, the car's innovative use of materials and engineering concepts appealed to some automotive enthusiasts who appreciated the technical aspects of its design. Production of the Dyna Z continued until 1959, when it was ultimately phased out due to declining sales and changing consumer preferences. As the automotive landscape evolved in the late 1950s and early 1960s, Panhard began to focus on different models that better matched the desires of the market, including vehicles with more power and modern features. The Dyna Z's production run was relatively short-lived, but it left an indelible mark as an early example of lightweight construction and efficient design. Today, the Panhard Dyna Z is often remembered as a curiosity in automotive history, emblematic of the challenges faced by manufacturers in balancing innovation with consumer expectations. While it may not have achieved commercial success, the Dyna Z remains a symbol of a unique approach to car design, one that prioritized fuel efficiency and lightweight construction over power and luxury. For collectors and enthusiasts, the Dyna Z represents a fascinating chapter in the evolution of the automobile, showcasing the spirit of creativity and experimentation that defined the post-war era of car manufacturing. The Henry J. 1950 to 1954 was a compact car produced by Kaiser Frazer, aimed primarily at budget-conscious American families looking for an affordable and straightforward transportation option. While it was intended to offer a low-cost alternative during the post-war automotive boom, the Henry J quickly became synonymous with mediocrity, suffering from numerous shortcomings that ultimately led to its lack of popularity and commercial failure. From the outset, the Henry J was marketed as a no-frills vehicle, designed to meet the basic needs of families without unnecessary complications. It was introduced in the wake of World War II, when many Americans were seeking economical cars that could easily fit into tight budgets. However, this focus on affordability came at a steep price, as the Henry J featured a minimalist design that lacked many of the comforts and conveniences that consumers had come to expect from automobiles during this period. One of the most significant drawbacks of the Henry J was its limited features. The car was equipped with only the bare essentials: a basic heating system, manual windows, and few available options. Unlike competitors that offered a range of upgrades and customization options, the Henry J's lack of features made it feel cheap and underwhelming. This stripped-down approach left many potential buyers feeling unsatisfied and uninspired. In terms of build quality, the Henry J was also disappointing. The shut construction and materials used were often subpar, leading to issues such as poor fit and finish. Owners frequently reported problems with rust and corrosion, which tarnished the car's reputation. The interior, while functional, was cramped and lacked comfort. Passengers found themselves squeezed into a tight cabin with minimal legroom and limited headspace, making longer journeys uncomfortable and less enjoyable. Performance-wise, the Henry J was powered by a small, inline-4 engine that produced only about 68 horsepower in its most robust iteration. This power output was inadequate for a car of its size, leading to sluggish acceleration and lackluster highway performance. The car struggled to keep up with traffic, particularly on inclines or when merging onto faster roadways. For families looking for a reliable and efficient vehicle, the Henry J's underpowered engine made it an unappealing choice, while some versions of the Henry J offered an optional six-cylinder engine. Even this upgrade did not significantly improve performance. As a result, the car was often criticized for its lack of power and responsiveness, with many drivers expressing frustration over its inability to deliver a satisfying driving experience. The combination of poor acceleration and uninspiring handling left a lasting impression on anyone who took the Henry J for a spin. Despite these limitations, the Henry J did attract a niche audience due to its high affordable price point. At a time when many families were struggling financially, the car provided a means of transportation for those who might not have otherwise been able to afford one. However, this market appeal was not enough to secure its place in automotive history. The overall perception of the Henry J as a cheap and poorly constructed vehicle ultimately overshadowed its affordability, leading to its decline in sales and popularity. The Bershing Kaiser Fraser Company struggled to maintain a foothold in the competitive automotive market, and the Henry J was one of the first casualties of their challenges. By 1954, production of the Henry J had ceased, marking the end of its brief existence in the automotive landscape. Today, the Henry J is often remembered as an example of how not to approach car manufacturing. It serves as a reminder that affordability alone is not enough to ensure success in the automotive industry. While it may have fulfilled its intended purpose of providing basic transportation for budget-minded families, the Henry J's shortcomings in quality, performance, and comfort ultimately led to its failure to make a lasting impression in the annals of automotive history. Collectors and enthusiasts today regard it as a curiosity, a vehicle that highlights the complexities of post-war automobile production and the challenges faced by manufacturers attempting to balance cost, quality, and consumer expectations. Datsun 1000, 1958 to 1964. The Datsun 1000 was a compact car produced by Nissan that epitomized the company's efforts to make affordable and practical transportation accessible to the masses in post-war Japan. Launched in the late 1950s during a period of significant economic recovery and growth, the Datsun 1000 represented the burgeoning ambition of Japanese automakers to compete in the global market. Although it was intended as a budget-friendly option for families and first-time car buyers, the Datsun 1000 faced numerous challenges that ultimately hindered its reputation and performance. At the core of the Datsun 1000 was its modest 1.0-liter inline-4 engine, which produced only 48 horsepower. While this engine was designed for efficiency and cost-effectiveness, it often left drivers longing for more power, particularly in various driving conditions. The performance of the car was notably underwhelming, especially when fully loaded with passengers and luggage. Acceleration was lethargic, requiring a considerable amount of time to reach highway speeds. Drivers often found themselves struggling to merge into traffic or pass slower vehicles, creating an overall sense of frustration. The car's top speed of approximately 70 miles per hour was adequate for city driving but felt insufficient on open highways, leading many to consider it unsuitable for longer trips. Handling and ride quality were also areas where the Datsun 1000 struggled. Its basic suspension system, comprising a front strut design and a rear leaf spring setup, was aimed at providing a cost-effective solution for a budget vehicle. Unfortunately, this arrangement resulted in poor ride dynamics, with noticeable body roll during turns and a lack of stability on uneven surfaces. Drivers often reported a vague steering feel, making it challenging to gauge the car's limits in corners. While the ride could be somewhat comfortable on smooth roads, it quickly deteriorated on pothole-ridden or bumpy surfaces, leading to a jarring and uncomfortable experience for occupants. The interior of the Datsun 1000 reflected its low-cost construction, emphasizing functionality over comfort. The dashboard featured rudimentary instrumentation that provided essential information, but lacked the modern conveniences that drivers had begun to expect in the early 1960s. Materials used in the cabin were predominantly hard plastics and low-quality fabrics, which contributed to an austere atmosphere devoid of luxury. The seating arrangement was designed to accommodate 4 passengers, but space was limited, leading to a cramped and uncomfortable experience on longer journeys. The seats themselves lacked adequate support, causing discomfort on extended trips. Overall, the interior ambiance felt more like a utilitarian space than a welcoming environment, which did little to enhance the overall driving experience. Despite its many shortcomings, the Datsun 1000 played a pivotal role in Nissan's history and the evolution of Japanese automobiles. It became one of the first Japanese cars to be exported internationally, representing a significant step for Japanese manufacturers seeking to establish a foothold in the global automotive market. However, its lack of refinement and underwhelming performance cast a shadow over its reputation. Many consumers were drawn to competitors that offered more powerful engines, better handling, and overall greater appeal, causing the Datsun 1000 to become overlooked by many potential buyers. Throughout the 1960s, as competition in the automotive industry intensified, Nissan recognized the need to improve upon the shortcomings of the Datsun 1000. The model was eventually succeeded by more refined iterations that addressed many of its flaws. Future models boasted improved engine options, enhanced handling characteristics, and upgraded interior quality, laying the groundwork for Nissan's emergence as a key player in the automotive landscape. This evolution marked a significant turning point for the company, helping to reshape the perception of Japanese automakers on the global stage. In retrospect, the Datsun 1000 represents a transitional phase in Nissan's journey from a local manufacturer to an internationally recognized automaker. While it aimed to deliver affordable transportation, it ultimately struggled with its underpowered engine, poor handling, and uninspired design. Nevertheless, the Datsun 1000 is remembered as a symbol of an era when Japanese cars were just beginning to make their mark on the world, paving the way for the more successful and innovative models that would follow in subsequent decades. The lessons learned from the Datsun 1000's shortcomings influenced future designs and strategies, ultimately leading to the development of vehicles that would help solidify Nissan's reputation as a formidable player in the global automotive industry. The Peel P50, produced from 1962 to 1965 by the Peel Engineering Company on the Isle of Man, is often celebrated as one of the smallest cars ever created, capturing the imagination of car enthusiasts and casual observers alike. With its remarkably compact dimensions of just 54 inches in length and 41 inches in width, the P50 was designed to provide an ultra-affordable and highly maneuverable option for city dwellers navigating the crowded streets of urban environments. Its design philosophy prioritized simplicity, efficiency, and economy, which made it particularly appealing to individuals seeking a no-frills transportation solution. Weighing in at around 130 pounds, the P50 was remarkably lightweight, thanks in part to its fiberglass construction, which contributed to its nimbleness. The diminutive car was powered by a modest 49 cubic centimeter two-stroke engine, producing approximately 4 horsepower. This underpowered engine limited the car to a top speed of about 38 miles per hour, which, while sufficient for short trips around town, made it ill-suited for any sort of highway travel. The engine's design was a testament to the car's focus on urban utility rather than performance, emphasizing fuel efficiency over speed. The P50 was equipped with a simple 3-speed manual transmission designed for ease of use and accessibility, allowing even novice drivers to operate it without difficulty. The interior of the P50 was extraordinarily basic and minimalistic, reflecting its purpose as a utilitarian vehicle. Accessed through a single door located on the driver's side, the interior offered just enough room for one person, making it a truly solitary experience. The sparse design included a small steering wheel and a few essential controls, but little else in terms of modern amenities. This lack of passenger space and additional features reinforced the P50's status as a vehicle designed strictly for short trips and basic transportation needs rather than comfort or style. The absence of passenger seating highlighted its niche market. It was a car best suited for individuals who needed a simple and affordable means of getting from point A to point B. One of the most distinctive characteristics of the Peel P50 was its unconventional 3-wheeled configuration. The front wheel was responsible for steering and provided stability, while the 2 rear wheels were fixed, creating a narrow and unique stance on the road. This design not only set the P50 apart from traditional 4-wheeled vehicles, but also contributed to its peculiar driving dynamics. The narrow wheelbase allowed for impressive agility in tight spaces, making parking in crowded areas a breeze. However, this same design made the P50 somewhat prone to tipping during sharp turns, necessitating a cautious approach to driving that many users were unaccustomed to. While marketed as a practical solution for urban commuting, the limitations of the P50 soon became apparent to users. With seating for only one occupant and virtually no trunk space, the car was not designed for families or anyone needing to carry more than a few small items. While the P50 excelled in its ability to fit into the tiniest parking spaces and navigate congested streets, its utility was often overshadowed by its novelty status. Many drivers found the car's low top speed and limited power frustrating, particularly when compared to the more robust and powerful vehicles available at the time. Despite its practical shortcomings, the Peel P50 has gained a significant and dedicated following over the years, becoming an iconic example of automotive creativity and innovation. Its quirky, whimsical design and limited production run, with only around 50 units ever built, have elevated it to the status of a collector's item. Enthusiasts often celebrate the P50 in automotive shows and exhibitions, showcasing its unique place in the history of automotive design and its role as a symbol of the quirky side of the automotive industry. In popular culture, the Peel P50 has made notable appearances, including memorable segments on the BBC television show Top Gear. These appearances highlighted its unusual features and limited practicality in a humorous context, further cementing its reputation as an automotive oddity. Such media exposure has transformed the P50 from a mere curiosity into a celebrated piece of automotive history, appealing to a diverse range of audiences, from collectors to casual car fans. As consumer preferences evolved and shifted toward larger vehicles in the mid-1960s, the production of the Peel P50 ultimately came to an end. Yet its legacy endures, serving as a reminder of a unique era in automotive history when creativity and innovation took precedence over conventional norms. The P50 stands as a testament to the spirit of exploration and audacity that can lead to extraordinary and unconventional designs. The Austin A40 Somerset, manufactured between 1952 and 1954, was a quintessential example of post-war British automotive engineering, designed to serve as a practical and affordable family sedan for the everyday consumer. Positioned as a low-cost option for families, it was a reflection of the times, when economic recovery from World War II dictated a focus on function over form. However, despite its good intentions, the A40 Somerset's overall design, performance, and driving experience left much to be desired. Under the hood, the A40 Somerset was equipped with a modest 1.2-liter engine, producing around 40 horsepower. This engine was adequate for basic commuting, but lacked the spirited performance that many drivers craved. The car's acceleration was notably sluggish, making it challenging to merge onto busy roads or navigate through traffic with confidence. In a period where competition was introducing more robust engines that offered better power-to-weight ratios, the A40 Somerset struggled to keep pace, which limited its appeal among consumers looking for a more dynamic driving experience. Aesthetically, the A40 Somerset was decidedly conventional, showcasing a design that could be best described as unremarkable. Its rounded lines and soft contours did little to excite the senses, and the overall silhouette was reminiscent of a time when practicality was prioritized over style. The front end featured a modest grille, and the rear was equally uninspired, with no standout design elements to attract attention. This lack of visual appeal meant that the A40 Somerset often blended into the background among a sea of more visually stimulating cars on the road, contributing to its reputation as a forgettable option in the marketplace. Inside the A40 Somerset, the focus remained firmly on practicality. The interior was basic, with a straightforward dashboard that featured minimal instrumentation, reflecting an emphasis on function rather than comfort or luxury. The seating was adequate for a small family, but it did not offer the level of comfort that might make longer journeys enjoyable. The materials used in the cabin were simple and utilitarian, reinforcing the notion that this was a vehicle designed for budget-conscious buyers rather than those seeking an upscale driving experience. The lack of attention to detail in the interior design resulted in a cabin that felt more like a workspace than a comfortable haven for drivers and passengers alike. Driving the A40 Somerset was characterized by an unremarkable experience. While the car was designed to be dependable for daily commutes and errands, it lacked any sort of engagement or joy that would encourage drivers to take the long way home. The handling was unexciting, and the ride quality could be bumpy, particularly on less than ideal road surfaces. Many owners describe the experience of driving the A40 Somerset as functional but uninspiring, with the car feeling more like a necessary chore than a source of pleasure. This perception further solidified its image as a vehicle lacking in personality and excitement. Despite its shortcomings, the Austin A40 Somerset found its way into the hearts of budget-conscious families who required a reliable vehicle for everyday use. It served as a basic means of transportation for those who prioritize functionality over aesthetics. In many ways, the A40 Somerset became a symbol of post-war practicality, a vehicle that fulfilled its role as a reliable workhorse for countless families across Britain. The car's blandness and underwhelming performance ultimately left it overshadowed by more charismatic competitors from the same era, both domestic and international. While other manufacturers began to embrace design and performance innovations, the A40 Somerset remained mired in the traditional values of affordability and practicality. In hindsight, the car represented a transitional phase in the automotive industry, where the shift towards a more dynamic and stylish design was on the horizon, yet the A40 Somerset remained firmly rooted in its utilitarian roots. In retrospect, the Austin A40 Somerset serves as a reminder of an era when the automotive landscape was evolving, but not all vehicles managed to keep up with the changing tides. Its modest engine, uninspiring design, and basic interior contributed to a vehicle that was functional yet largely forgettable. The A40 Somerset may not have been a standout car in terms of performance or style, but it fulfilled a specific niche in the market as a no-frills transportation solution for those who simply needed to get from point A to point B. Ultimately, the A40 Somerset encapsulates the duality of practicality and mediocrity, embodying a period in automotive history that prioritized basic transportation needs over innovation and excitement. While it may not have left a lasting impression in terms of style or performance, the Isetta, produced from 1953 to 1962, stands out as one of the most iconic microcars in automotive history. Manufactured by a variety of companies, including BMW, the Isetta epitomized the post-war era's push for compact, affordable vehicles that catered to urban living. Its quirky design, coupled with a unique engineering approach, has made it a beloved classic, despite its numerous limitations. At first glance, the Isetta's design immediately captures attention. Characterized by its bulbous shape and a distinctive single front door that opens like a refrigerator, the microcar exudes an undeniable charm. This unconventional door design allows for easy access to the surprisingly cramped interior, though it limits practicality for passengers entering and exiting the vehicle. The three-wheeled variant, alongside its four-wheeled counterpart, gives the Isetta a unique stance on the road, resembling a toy or a small bubble rather than a conventional automobile. Beneath its quirky exterior lies a modest powertrain. The Isetta typically housed a tiny single-cylinder, two-stroke engine that produced between 12 and 15 horsepower, depending on the model and year of manufacture. This minuscule engine significantly restricted the car's performance, limiting its top speed to approximately 50 miles per hour. As a result, the Isetta was ill-equipped for highway driving, relegating it to city streets where it could maneuver through tight spaces. The low power output meant that drivers often found themselves struggling to keep pace with other vehicles, particularly on busy roads, making it necessary to approach driving with caution and vigilance. The interior of the Isetta is arguably one of its most significant drawbacks. With room for only 2 passengers, the cabin feels incredibly cramped. While the minimalistic design aligns with the Isetta's overall ethos of affordability and simplicity, it lacks the comfort and amenities found in larger cars. The seating arrangement is basic, with little in the way of cushioning or support, leading to a less-than-ideal driving experience, particularly on longer journeys. Moreover, the car's compact size means there's hardly any storage space, making it challenging to carry groceries, luggage, or other essentials. For many owners, this limitation restricted the Isetta's functionality to short trips around town, which became a defining characteristic of its usage. Safety was another significant concern for the Isetta, primarily due to its lightweight construction and small size. The vehicle's design left it vulnerable to collisions, raising serious questions about its crashworthiness. The three-wheeled setup could lead to stability issues, especially on uneven terrain or during inclement weather. Furthermore, the lack of modern safety features, such as seat belts and crumple zones, meant that driving an Isetta came with inherent risks. These limitations made it difficult for potential buyers to view the car as a reliable option for everyday transportation, particularly for families or those living in more rural areas. Despite these shortcomings, the Isetta found its place in the market, especially in post-war Europe. During this period, many people sought economical transportation options, and the Isetta's compact size made it an attractive choice for urban dwellers. The microcar could navigate narrow streets and fit into tight parking spaces, making it well-suited for congested city environments. Additionally, the Iseta's low price point appealed to those on a budget, providing an affordable solution for individuals and families who needed reliable transportation without breaking the bank. The Iseta's unique design and charming aesthetics contributed to its cult following, elevating it to a status that transcended its practical limitations. Enthusiasts and collectors began to appreciate the Iseta not just as a vehicle, but as a symbol of ingenuity and creativity during a time of economic challenges. The microcar became a nostalgic representation of the 1950s and 1960s, evoking a sense of simpler times when affordability and compactness were paramount. Production of the Iseta eventually declined as consumer preferences shifted toward larger, more powerful vehicles in the 1960s. However, its legacy remains intact. The Iseta is fondly remembered today not only for its distinctive design, but also for its role in the history of automotive innovation. The microcar serves as a testament to the resourcefulness of manufacturers who sought to address the challenges of urban mobility in a rapidly changing world. In summary, the Iseta encapsulates the essence of the microcar phenomenon, a tiny, quirky vehicle that resonates with charm, yet faces substantial limitations in terms of practicality and safety. While it may not have been designed for high-speed travel or comfort, its unique character and cultural significance have secured its place in automotive history.